There's an island in Tokyo Bay that didn't exist 50 years ago. It wasn't built by engineers with steel and concrete. It wasn't a planned development. It was built by a city, out of its own garbage. Today, Tokyo's 14 million residents produce 4.8 million tons of waste every single year. That's 13,000 tons every single day. And yet, somehow, this megacity has just one operational landfill. One. So here's the question that's going to haunt you for the next 8 minutes. How does the world's most sophisticated waste system actually work? And more importantly, is this the blueprint for every megacity on Earth? Or is it a masterpiece sitting on a 50-year countdown clock? By the end of this video, you're going to understand why Tokyo's incredible reputation is both completely earned and deeply incomplete. Let me take you back to 1971, Tokyo Bay. Not glamorous, not the postcard version. For 50 years, since the 1920s, Tokyo had been doing what seemed like a good idea at the time. Dump your trash directly into the bay. Let it pile up. Eventually, you've got new land. Actually, that worked. For a while. They literally called one of these landfills Dream Island, Yumanoshima. Poetic, right? Except by the late 1960s, Dream Island had become a nightmare. A waste dump so infested with flies, so genuinely disgusting, that the Japanese self-defense forces were called in. Not to clean it up, to burn it down. When the self-defense forces have to torch your garbage island, you've reached a breaking point. Tokyo's governor at the time was a man named Ryokichi Minobe, and in 1971 he made a declaration that would reshape the entire city. A war on garbage. Not metaphorically, literally, a formal war against the waste. And the weapons in this war? They weren't landfills, they weren't recycling, they were something far more radical. They were the people, and the city itself. Here's what Tokyo built. A network of 21 incineration plants, not on the outskirts, not hidden away, right in the middle of residential neighborhoods. These aren't ancient smoke-belching facilities. They're state-of-the-art thermal treatment centers. They operate at temperatures exceeding 800 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, waste doesn't just burn, it vaporizes. What goes in as mountains of trash comes out as 1/20th of the volume, a 95% reduction in volume. The ash? Sold. The surplus electricity? Sold back to the grid for approximately 9.8 billion yen annually. So the system doesn't just dispose of waste, it monetizes it, it produces energy, it shrinks the footprint. On paper, this is brilliant. But here's the uncomfortable part.
Tokyo is routinely described as the world's most sophisticated waste management system. That description is correct. It's also incomplete. Tokyo's recycling rate is 25.6%. Let that sink in. The European Union's average recycling rate? 47%. Tokyo's own target for 2030? 37%. Even Tokyo's own government has admitted its system is falling short of its own goals. So what is Tokyo actually doing with the remaining 74% of its waste? They're burning it. And that's where we hit the central tension of this entire system. There's a hierarchy to waste management. At the bottom, landfilling. Above that, incineration. Above that, recycling and composting.
At the top, prevention. The goal, the ideal. Tokyo has become the world's leading expert at incineration. But incineration is not the circular economy. It's not closing loops. It's not regeneration. It's transformation. It's turning waste into energy and ash. And that matters. Because for every city on Earth trying to transition to a genuine circular economy, Japan is offering a masterclass in a different lesson entirely. You can become extremely sophisticated at managing waste and still not be solving waste. Because eventually, even Tokyo's ash has to go somewhere.
Tokyo has one operational landfill left. That landfill is an artificial island called Yuminoshima. Ironically, the same site they had to send the self-defense forces to torch in the 1960s. Scientists and engineers have run the projections. They've checked the math multiple times. That landfill will be completely full somewhere between 2050 and 2075. 50 years, give or take. And here's what Tokyo's government has not publicly announced a credible plan B for. When Yuminoshima fills, where does the ash go? The proposals being quietly discussed, they involve the open sea, underwater disposal, coastal dumping, variants that look suspiciously like the 1960s problem Tokyo tried to escape. History doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. This is the reality beneath Tokyo's reputation. It's a system of extraordinary sophistication and quiet, structural fragility.
For every city currently building the infrastructure of tomorrow, Tokyo's model is simultaneously a template and a warning. If you're a policymaker in Lagos or Jakarta, Tokyo says you can build sophistication, you can scale, you can generate revenue from waste. But Tokyo also says scale without genuine circular economics, and you're building a countdown clock, not a solution. There are currently 700+ waste-to-energy facilities operating globally. Most of them, particularly in Asia and Europe, are modelled directly on what Tokyo pioneered, which means they're all building the same assumption into their future: indefinite incineration capacity, indefinite growth, and an eventual reckoning with where the ash goes. For investors evaluating waste-to-energy as a long-term asset, Tokyo's 50-year landfill runway is not a reassurance. It's a case study in how to defer a problem for half a century. The question isn't whether Tokyo's system works. It works with extraordinary precision. The question is, for how much longer?
Tokyo built the most advanced waste infrastructure system on Earth, and after 50 years, it still manages only 25.6% recycling. It still produces millions of tons of incinerator ash, and it still has no credible plan for what happens when its only landfill fills. That gap between reputation and reality, that's the most important thing you need to understand about the circular economy transition happening right now in every major city. Because if Tokyo, with 6 decades of civic discipline, with 14 million people trained to separate waste into 30 categories, with the most advanced incineration technology on Earth, can only reach 25.6% recycling, what does that tell you about the cities still building their systems from scratch?
If you've ever been overwhelmed by the scale of the waste crisis, if you've ever wondered whether the solutions being presented actually solve anything, if you've ever wanted to understand what's really happening behind the headlines in the cities reshaping global infrastructure right now, subscribe, hit the bell, join the people who are tracking these systems with actual data, not assumptions.